with another edition of the Etihad Cargo Connections. I'm AP Harrell, joined by a fantastic horseman, Matthew Ennis. He is the managing director, owner, we should say, of G1 Goldmine. Matthew, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, AP.
It's always fascinating to talk to entrepreneurs who acquired their company by first being a customer of the company. It's a very good sign that they saw some value in it, some utility, wanted to take it to the next level. We oftentimes on this program talk about the origin story of a horse. I'm going to ask you about the origin story of your baby, your company.
Yeah, sure. Well, we started with a horse called Deploy, a beautiful horse by Fastnet Rock. We used G1 Goldmine at the time, and we had incredible success with Deploy. He won multiple group races, a Morton Cup, Theo Marks, a Show County. And actually, he was one of the first starters in the Everest way back when it started. Well, it's not that long ago now. Deploy wasn't the only horse that we had success with. We had Tangled, Hellbent, Sweet Reply, Hulk. It was pretty evident early on that G1 Goldmine offered a huge opportunity in terms of eliminating risk in buying horses. And identifying successful horses as well. Most of the horses reached graded stakes level. They had more than, in excess of $500,000 prize money. So we were we were fairly aggressive in trying to purchase G1 Goldmine, and we were successful, which was exciting.
After your experience with Deploy, how quickly did it take for you and your partners to deploy a plan and get after it and acquire the company?
Yeah, look, it took about 18 months to acquire the company. And it was the opportunity for
And Matthew, I'm sorry, I'm just getting a notice here. Could you speak a little bit louder if you get a chance?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
The opportunity with G1 Goldmine was that it was, back then, it offered so much success at selecting yearlings and racehorses, but it was really under-resourced. So it took 18 months to acquire it. And then we proceeded with an additional 18 months to rebrand and re-resource the whole company. And so we effectively relaunched G1 Goldmine. It's almost 2 years ago now, which we're really proud of.
And Matthew, when I was doing my research for this interview, it said that about 50,000 runners per week are entered into the system. How are you guys able to keep up with this seeming overflow of information?
Yeah, it's a massive, and to be honest, that's the hardest part of the day-to-day running of the company. We had to set an offshore, what we call the data hub in Pakistan. So we've got an office there with a team of about 40 individuals. And it's a constant process. We get a results feed from a wholesaler, and we effectively have to match up to those 50,000 runners a week with generational data, which is a constant battle, but it's highly rewarding as well.
On the human forefront, we're also interested in tracing our own lineage and seeing where we come from and running the DNA test. And of course, for the horses, I guess you want to do the same thing for a different purpose. How far back in a horse's lineage do you go?
It depends on the tools of our platform. So some tools, we've got pedigree search, which search for an ancestor up to 7-8 generations. And then we have stallion match, which only really looks at up to 5 generations. So it's a little bit closer. Again, though, it depends on the individual. Theoretically, we're set up and geared in a way that it could be infinite all the way back to the records that we've got in our database. So depending on the tools.
Managing Director of G1 Goldmine, Matthew Ennis, joins us on the Etihad Cargo Connections. We were joking before we were on air that G over in Australia, a group, it could be grade in the States. The G can be whatever you want it to be, right?
Yeah, that's right. It can be grade, group, wherever you happen to be in the world. It's relevant to you, I suppose.
Matthew, in weather forecasting, they say that, each day you project out, you're going to lose about 10% of the accuracy because you're looking further and further ahead. As you look further and further back at a horse's lineage, I would imagine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's less impactful 7 generations than it was 3 generations ago. At what point do you see the diminishing returns and you say, hey, that's interesting, but really not a factor today?
No, you're right. The data definitely suggests that the closer you are to the actual runner, the more important the data is. You know, in that first three generations tends to be the most important. Although there are clear outliers that go back in the generations. 8 Carat is a perfect example of that. 17,000 runners or so. Still running at 4% stakes winners to runners, which is huge for something that has 17,000 runners. And 8 Carat, she's in pedigrees of Melody Bell, Lonhro, Very Elegant, Octagonal, Piero, plenty. So I mean, I guess there's clear outliers for the positive and for the negative, but generally speaking, I personally prefer to look in those first three generations.
Tell me a little bit about your background. I'm guessing you either have a math, science type background, or you brought some guys in who do, because so much math and science in here. Sure, horse racing is entertainment and there's guesswork involved, but what you guys do is quite specific and numbers based.
Oh, it is. It is. I think there's two aspects to our business. There's that back end data analyst business where we are building algorithms to essentially identify patterns and identify success and identify negative traits. That's definitely core. And I think the other end is the front end. We have our business is simplifying that analysis and making it clear and simple for the breeder or for the farms, for any individual to clearly break down that data, which can sometimes be a little bit difficult to understand. So my background personally is multimedia. It's the user front end. I do have obviously a clear interest for thoroughbreds and breeding, but I do have a technical mind. So I like the idea of bridging the gap between the technical and the simple for that user. I mean, we obviously hire data scientists to do building the algorithms and such. That's way out of my league. But I think we're moving to a really, really exciting phase where we have now the database and the numbers to really start dipping our toes into the machine learning and AI space, which is undoubtedly where it's going to head towards, that's very, very exciting.
G1 Goldmine Managing Director Matthew Ennis joins us on the Etihad Cargo Connections. Matt, you guys track about 50 data points per horse. I'd imagine some have more impact you've seen than others. Give us, in layman's terms, 2, 3, 4 of those data points and why they're so important.
Oh, look, I think, I've touched on it before, but the data points surrounding the first three generations are key. For the particular runner, not only that form data, previous form, distance, age, sex, but I think also those things need to be factored in for the male side and the female side up to 3 generations. So, looking at the sire line to the 3rd gen and looking through that female, that dam line to the 3rd gen is, undoubtedly key, in my opinion.
Matt, over here in the States, I'm a big baseball fan, and sabermetrics has taken over the last 20, 25 years. And you get the arguments between the younger guys, they're the math nerds, the eggheads. It's all about sabermetrics. And you get the old grizzly scouts. Now it's about the eye test. How do you go about, because I know when you fell in love with horse racing, it wasn't about data points at the beginning. How do you balance between hunches and the eye test and data points? Where do you marry those two?
Yeah, look, it's a fantastic question. And we're asked that all the time. I think the biggest thing, or the biggest advantage of G1 Goldmine is we don't assume, we don't have bias. We simply analyze the stats and we say it how it is. It's either black or it's white. So I think there is a clear shift on, that old school mentality where people tend to just remember the highlights and then, they fall in love with that sire and then they always buy or they always breed to that sire. I think that shift is changing and people are really understanding the value of what data brings, especially just breaking down the raw stats and making it simple for people to read. I think that's it's really important in their decision making.
And when you can objectively demonstrate to people that you're more likely to win by following this, everybody likes a winner in life, whether it's horse racing, baseball, politics, or business. And I imagine that's a pretty easy sell when you can put it out there for somebody dispassionately and they can decide on their own terms.
Well, exactly. And it's just about mitigating risk. Horse racing, horse breeding is a very risky business. Anyone that's been involved knows it, understands it. So if you can claw back 3, 5, 10% of that risk in your favor, you should do it. I mean, there's no reason why, really.
You touched on a race near and dear to us on the Etihad Cargo Connections, the Everest, which is coming up so soon, entering its second half decade. If you were asked to consult to help somebody pick out a horse for this year or even years to come, which data points are more important for an Everest horse than they might be for your typical horse?
Yeah, and I guess I've got a little bit of experience in this, having had a runner previously. So I think what's really interesting is, and I've had a quick look at the Everest field, in that if we look at the past winners of the Everest, every single one has had either a perfect match rating or a 20/20 match rating with Stallion Match, with one of our products. Every winner has had a distance profile of between 1,100 and a mile, 1,600 meters. Now, a distance profile for us is where we look at 5 generations of the pedigree. We don't just look at the runner. So this is looking at 5 generations of that winner and looking at all of the stakes winners within that generational period. And they've all got between 1,100 and 1,600 meters. I guess the only outlier would be Nature Strip, who's got a little bit more of a versatile pedigree from 1,000 to 2,400 meters. But generally, all of them have that kind of real sprinter to middle distance profile.
That's fascinating, Matthew. And of course, there's so much attention, and rightfully so, on Nature Strip. From your scientific vantage point, is it fair to call Nature Strip a super horse?
Oh, super. Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt. And the pedigree also would suggest so. Yeah, without a doubt.
Where do you find I'm not going to call them eggheads, even though I just did. My buddy is an actuary, freshman roommate. Shout out to Clay Lambiot, Virginia. Now he's in London, England, making a bunch more money than I ever will. But where do you find the actuaries and the scientists and the math guys to do this work? This is high-end stuff.
Yeah, and it's really, really hard. There's lots of people that are out there that claim that they can analyze big data sets, and I'll be the first to put my hand up, and I've employed some of them as well. But we operate in a niche industry. We have big data, and so we really require the right individuals to kind of analyze that. So to be perfectly frank, it's a bit of a trial and error process to find the right individuals to develop these algorithms. But it's not easy, and especially down in Australia at the moment, we've had our borders closed for so long. We've got a real shortage of staff. Labor shortage is everywhere. I'm not sure what it's like stateside, but it's horrible here at the moment. So
what's harder, Matt? Is it harder to find the guys who can build the algorithms, or harder to find that horse that can beat Nature Strip?
I think it's probably the first one. I think if we find the right individuals and we build the right models, which I think we're doing, I think we can identify the horses that can beat Nature Strip. I think we've proven that.
Let me ask you, let's take off your business cap and your science cap and put you back just as a horse racing fan and as an Aussie. How much fun is the Everest? It's going into its 6th year, young crowd, the Sydney Spring Carnival, the big money. How has that been a game changer down there?
Oh my gosh. As I've said a couple of times, I was very fortunate to be on the inside of the very first one. And, I'm getting goosebumps now just talking about it. It is something that you will never forget in your life. I've never seen a more diverse crowd at the races. I've never seen as many people at a race event. And hats off to the ATC and Racing New South Wales. They put together a fantastic event, right from the barrier draw all the way until the very end. When that winner crosses the line, it's just an amazing event.
You know, as we close out of the pandemic period and there's more attention drawn to the Everest and the big money and all the fun that hospitality you guys show down there to the world in Australia, I'm anticipating more and more international action in the Everest. And this next question, I don't know if there's any data points, but in the last 50 years, certainly 20, 25 years, even more, horses are flown all over the world to race. Is there any way to measure the effects, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, etc., on horses that travel that much in the air in terms of their performance and potentially their offspring as well?
Yeah, I think there's definitely data around that, and that's something that we'll be looking at, no doubt. We haven't done anything with that as yet, but you can only see some of the restrictions that have been put in place with the Melbourne Cup, and the vetting procedures. Look, anything for animal welfare, I think, is a great thing, and you'd like to think that they made those decisions based on research. So I'm sure that there is research already done out there, regarding that, but that's something that we're definitely going to be looking into in the future. I think, yeah, for sure.
Managing Director of G1 Goldmine, Matthew Ennis, is our guest. He started as a customer, then he and his partners bought the company. Stallion Match is such a big part of it. Walk us through in layman's terms how that works for a first-time user.
Sure. Look, Stallion Match is all about looking at 5 generations of a horse's pedigree, whether it's a hypothetical or a runner, and it cross-references that 5 generation of data against all of the global stakes winners' pedigrees of 5 generations, and it looks to see how similar that hypothetical is to the stakes winners' pedigree. So it's just about deciding whether that horse has a proven pedigree or not. What's really interesting is we just finished a study actually last week. We haven't published anything, but 11%, we found 11% of stakes winners had a perfect match rating, compared to the average of 3%.
Wow.
So that's a huge jump. 56% of stakes winners had a 20/20 match rating, and the average again is 30. So there's something definitely in there for breeders that are looking to breed a horse on a proven pedigree. And a proven pedigree means more than just a proven nick or a proven cross. It means looking at 5 generations, both on the male and female, and just trying to replicate that success, basically.
Matthew, for breeders who are considering utilizing G1 Goldmine for the first time, what are some of the different price points you guys offer?
Well, we got 2 channels effectively. We have farms who pay their stallions to be promoted on our platform, and that all that means is they allow breeders to do searches for free. Essentially, that's only $400 a year per stallion. For the breeder that wants to sign up and start, finding their crosses, prices start from $250 a year. So it's very affordable. We try and keep it as low as we possibly can, because we believe there is purpose within the platform, and it really should be available for everyone.
Do you find that particular jurisdictions, say Hong Kong versus Australia or the Middle East versus the States, are more receptive, or is it about equal around the globe in terms of trying out your new technologies?
No, it's not equal. I think Australasia, we're based in Australia, so Australasia has been very popular for us. North America is incredibly popular for us. You guys are, hats off, you're very data orientated. And I think you guys in America, particularly in the States, have just been fantastic in opening up the gates for companies to innovate with data. You brought up baseball earlier. Baseball is a fantastic example in terms of they allowed everyone to consume and use their data, and there's been just amazing innovation in that space. So we're seeing that a little bit in Australia. I'd love to see it more in America, but I think definitely North America, Australasia is where it's at in terms of data. But I still think Europe and Great Britain are getting there. They're just a little bit slower in the uptake, a little bit, but they're definitely going to get there. It's a trend.
As a Yank, I'm going to refrain from making a joke about the Brits being a little bit slow. Okay, I'm not going to say anything. All right. Hey, final question, Matt, is, and I'm not going to allow you to pick Nature Strip because that wouldn't be fun because he's such a heavy favorite. But putting on your various caps, you're a horse racing fan, You've run a horse in the Everest before, and of course, you're the managing director of G1 Goldmine. I want not Nature's Trip, so an upset here, an upset pick, and back it up for me with a little bit of data
For the Everest.
for the Everest.
I would have to say Jacquino. I think the last start was absolutely amazing. I think the pedigree suggests that the distance isn't an issue in terms of the pedigree of speed, but with a little hint of that mile, that touch of the mile. For me, that distance profile is key. I think we've really got to look at the pedigree and what success over a certain amount of distance it's had. And yeah, that's my pick. I don't know what the odds are, so it could be out there, but I have no idea.
You heard it from Matthew Ennis. Go convince your rich uncle to sell his late model Mercedes, take all that cash, go to Randwick and put it on Jacquino to win, baby. And then you can retire in Bali, where Matthew met his wife, and they now live in Sydney. Thank you so much, Matthew Ennis, Managing Director, G1 Goldmine, on this, the Etihad Cargo Connections. We appreciate your time. Look forward to visiting with you again in the future.
Absolute pleasure, AP. Thank you very much. Lovely to meet you.